Be careful with that, Kent, because sometimes it focuses.
Be careful with my coffee at our Coffee Time podcast.
Yeah, well, listen,
how wrong of me to bring it.
Look, you've got some good things to say today, and when we put a coffee cup in front of us, a lot of times it'll just focus on that thing, then your face is blurred.
Probably an improvement.
Man, all right. Favorite thing you witnessed or person you spoke to at Practical Farmers this weekend?
Wow, we have so many friends there that this could get awkward.
Yeah, really hurting people's feelings.
Well, I wish I could have seen Matt Hatala.
Yeah, Matt, what the heck?
We found out he was going to be in the area after PFI.
He was coming that evening.
I was most practical farmer.
I was also bummed I didn't get to hang out with Adam, Kiko Goats.
Yes, yep.
I was bummed that Adam Ledvine, I didn't get to hang out with him more. I hung out with his dad. And he was around all weekend, and I just didn't get a chance. And we were sitting at like half of the classes together.
Well, I found out that not everybody goes to the classes. They're like there because they like the event. Mm-hmm. Our friend Aaron would be an example of that.
Yeah, his dad.
Whereas I think Adam, I saw him only once, and it was while he was like sitting halfway across. Yeah, halfway across the room, in a class that I attended, and I was not there the whole weekend. I was only there Saturday, and so I saw him in that room and didn't get a chance to talk to him, but I did get a chance to talk with his dad, who's a lot of fun to talk to, and also I think Adam in like 30 years. So
that's funny, dude. Yeah, I had a really great time. I think the biggest thing I learned is I sat in on native grazing, and I didn't know this. But you have like feedlot fed, then you have grass fed, and then you have prairie fed. And obviously there's great benefits to diversity, like a diet that's diverse. But the meat that has, I'm going to butcher this. The meat that has grazed a majority of its life on prairie has phytonutrients. Antioxidants is the famous one that people talk about, and it's one of these kinds of nutrients that you don't get even grass fed, which is much better for you, obviously.
They're passing more on through the meat to the carnivore.
Yep, exactly. And you know how I don't know how much of this is just garbage and how much of it's true. I'm not a nutritionist or doctor, but they say plants. Obviously plants don't want to be eaten, right? So they have self-defense mechanisms that hurt our bodies a tiny bit. Mm-hmm. And I guess that getting plant nutrients through an animal that is eating that plant, because the animal's defense from you eating it is either camouflage or speed or something. It's not going to poison you while you're biting into it. Yeah. Because they don't want you to take that first bite. Oh yeah, frogs. Yeah, that's true, dude. Yeah, I know. Kent has shared some stories about frogs he's been eating recently, and it's just unbelievable.
It's a very, very real risk in my house.
Yeah, that's true, man. Oh man, yeah. But that whole phytonutrients thing there's a huge difference between, and it's not just like big blue stem Indian grass. It is like a diverse prairie, and just regular grass fed. That was fascinating for me.
Yeah, that is interesting. Probably goes along too with people who eat a lot of game. Those animals are feeding on more than just what their paddock allows them to. They're free ranging, so they probably get more of those nutrients in them as well, I would assume.
And I know that the more I learn about biology of animals, the more I'm shocked about their diet. The majority of the bell curve of their diet is certain species, but man, the fringes of their diet get really diverse.
Yeah.
Really, really diverse for all sorts of animals. And so I find that fascinating.
Yeah.
But I got to give a shout out to Bill and James, and I finally met Joshua and Trevor from Iowa Cover Crop, all four of those guys, and their wonderful wives who keep that place running. The really, really cool cover crop organization. I think they do a great job. Was always fun to hang out with Joyvan Weingarten. But if you have not been to Practical Farmers of Iowa, man, you should go.
Yeah, it's a great time.
It is a really, really cool place. Very diverse.
Riley was being too practical of a farmer.
Yeah, I was actually pulling out fence when Practical Farmers was happening, but so
sure would be nice to go talk about farming right now.
Practical farmer from Iowa.
It was. It would have been more fun to be at the conference, but that's what it is.
Yeah. No. Well, we appreciate it. Riley was holding the fort down here. I need you all to email in and tell Kent and Riley why we need to get some sort of livestock.
Nick loves talking about the work he's not going to do.
Well, and you're going to love doing the work. It's a great teamwork thing.
Yeah.
I just, sheep or goats or something. It'd be
when the sheep are on the highway, I'm coming down to Knoxville to pick you up and, at 2 a.m.
right.
and then we can make a round trip out of it.
No, we just need a dog, and
it's just that simple.
It's just,
all these years, all these millennia.
Yeah, people haven't even figured it out.
We're working way too hard at this.
Yeah.
Oh man, we should probably actually get started. Coffee Time Wednesdays with the Prairie Farm Podcast.
Can't hit us with the jingle.
Welcome back to the Prairie Farm Podcast, Coffee Time Wednesday. I'm your favorite host, Nicolas Leary, with favorite co-host, Ken Boucher.
Wow, we have the family back together.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Yeah, I was really close to calling Riley the co-host here. I was close because I don't know if you listened to last episode.
I wondered. I got the middle spot this week.
I've been demoted.
Yeah, demoted to the fringe. I got the middle spot. I've been trying to put in some good inputs, but
I think whoever helps set up the least gets to be the last co-host.
I think they get to be the host.
Whoever, dude, and without fail, Kent has something he has to do when we're about to set up the podcast.
Look, I just look at all that technology and I just get tired.
Man, I got to go look at a tire.
I look at all those cords and computer, and I just get sleepy looking at it.
Oh man, yeah. Well, and co-host to the coast, Riley Rosendahl.
Yeah, howdy,
man. Well, Kent.
Yeah, well, it was a good time at PFI, and there's always a little bit of excitement and buzz in the air, and there's conversations.
A little influenza.
Yeah, a little bit of influenza. Yeah. Which turns out, I think I did get influenza again this year.
Oh.
I wasn't sure it went through my family. It's become the most predictable Christmas gift I get every year. I'm going to put my family on blast a little bit here. We always show up healthy, and we always come back sick, so it's not our fault. And last year was influenza A, and this year my sister had to seek medical attention yesterday because she picked it up as well. And she got, all the tests and everything. Unfortunately, she's got pneumonia to go with it. But tested positive for influenza B. And so
that's not even the big one that's going around. That's unlucky.
But I will say that this was nothing compared to influenza A last year when I had that. That was wow. That was bad. But
that was the influenza A I got this past month was the worst I've felt since I got the chicken pox in high school, which I told one of my friends who's a doctor.
I would guess you had influenza A if unless you got tested to find it was
Yes, I did. I had influenza. Well, everyone, the one family member that got tested, they had influenza A, and we just all said the same thing. I was talking to my good friend at church yesterday, and he's a doctor, and he was like, "You got chicken pox in high school? That's about as unlucky as it gets, brother. Herd immunity and the vaccine doesn't work for you. That's unlucky, dude." And there was it was me and one other kid. Did I tell this on the podcast last week, Riley?
You talked about, you mentioned you had it, and I was shocked by that. And then you kind of explained the story. How was you? And
so with
kid?
that one other
You're
kid,
the two people in Iowa.
Two people. Yeah. Anyway, I don't need to repeat it, but.
You're lucky you just weren't culled from the herd at that point.
Yeah, at that point it's just natural selection. It's just
we got to get rid of these two. They're bad for the gene pool.
The two biggest threats in Iowa.
Not even sick. If you just like knew me in high school, you might have thought that. You know, like, yeah, I think this is it for this guy. No more gene pool for this dude.
But no, there's always, you're talking about different things happening in the news that's related to PFI issues, right? Agriculture, conservation, might be some wildlife things, their water quality, of course. But kind of running concurrently with that is our good buddy Taylor from ISC, who we will be in that exact same building with in, I don't know, a month and a half.
Yep. And Taylor Reagan, you've probably heard him on the podcast.
Yes. Yep. And ISC is the Iowa Sportsman's Club. And they have, I believe, a raffle going here pretty soon. I can't remember what the text was we got on that the other day, but
I think it's at the Iowa Deer Classic is the auction.
Yeah, I think that's when it but I think you can. There's also a raffle that you can start buying tickets
and there's awesome stuff on that raffle.
Yeah.
I was perusing.
Go to their Facebook page. I think that's probably the best way to see what they're up to. So the Iowa Sportsman's Club Facebook
there is
page.
A free prairie seed and prairie planting for pheasant habitat on that raffle. So if I got my information, we provided the seed for it, and I can't remember if they're splitting it into 2 10-acre things or 1 20-acre deal, but I mean 20-acre seed, it's quite a bit of seed, but that's how much we believe in ISC and what they're doing for conservation.
That's a lot of seed.
Yeah.
That's a sizable CRP quote.
Yeah.
20 acres. So go and check that out. But Taylor reached out to Nicolas and me, and he had just met, or ISC had met with Secretary of Ag Mike Negg just this last week to talk about the Streamside Buffer Pilot Project or Buffer Pilot Initiative. You'll see it called sometimes. And I think I saw this in the news back in August, but my life was a blur in August, and I didn't really track it down any further, and I kind of forgot about it. It is something we've talked about before. I was not aware of this, but Tabitha, maybe a little over a year and a half ago, talked about how the state of Minnesota, which I'm going to talk about here as well, has their own buffer law, the Minnesota buffer law, where along every so I guess we'll just explain Minnesota's first. Minnesota has this law where every waterfront acre in the state has to have a perennial vegetative buffer leading up to it. And it was kind of interesting, the wording that I found. This is from the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources. And I also went on, looked at the actual law a little bit, which is at revisor.minnesota.gov or .mn.gov. Their law specifies a maximum, which I thought was weird. I was wondering why they didn't also include the minimum in there. But up to 50 feet of this buffer, vegetative buffer, along all lakes, rivers, and streams. And then 16 and a half feet along all ditches, which was pretty, makes a lot of sense, right? Because stormwater or even like in pastures, sometimes you'll see something that's not really a creek or a stream, it's kind of more intermittent, but we just call it a ditch, right? Anywhere that's taking water and bringing it to, a actual river or stream has to have 16 and a half feet of this buffer protecting it, perennial vegetative buffer protecting it. And I did not realize that was a law up there. Honestly, if you had to, if somebody had, maybe make a bet on it and like, hey, do you think this would be a law anywhere? I'd probably be like, you're going to enforce that every bit of ground that's bordering water to enforce that law? No way. And Turns out not only was Tabitha right, but as of 2024, 99% of parcels next to, this was on the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources website, 99% of parcels next to water is compliant with this law as of 2024.
Wow.
So definitely.
Did you see what the penalty was?
I did not see what the penalty was.
I'm curious how big the stick is on the other side, but
yeah. I mean, must be pretty significant if 99% of people are compliant. I mean, where do you ever see 99% compliance on anything, you know?
Real. But also I wonder if if in the culture we are the state of 10,000 lakes. We protect our water. You know, it's kind of like a personal pride.
I give Minnesota a ton of credit for that. They have really championed a natural resources are valuable because they're valuable and not valuable because they can be exploited type of culture. And it shows, you know, if you're in the Midwest and you want to go somewhere pristine on your summer vacation, Minnesota is one of those places you're going to look at. And there's a few other states that do well. I think Wisconsin does pretty well in a lot of places, and Driftless, Iowa does well, and Michigan is another great place that people go to find that natural beauty and some of that pristine natural what would you say, settings, ecosystems, intact ecosystems. They're attractive for that. So they do have a culture of that. I'm sure that's part of that compliance. But point being, when Tabitha brought that up to us, she was saying like, hey, if this is something that we should do here in Iowa as well. And to me, it's like when I heard that, it was the biggest no-brainer, like, yeah. It'll never happen. You know, we just don't have that I don't know what the
public
right term.
will.
Yeah, the public will, the culture, like you're talking about in Minnesota, to place like a significant enough value on that to be, say, the government's going to come on my land and tell me what I'm going to do, type of mentality. And so this, bringing it back to Iowa here, was very good news to hear that there is this pilot program that has been going now for a little bit. I believe it just started this year back in August. They announced it. And it's a small amount of area now, but it is state funded. The pilot program is, at least. And that so far the state has set aside $3 million to get this pilot program going. Because it's a pilot program, it's limited on where they're doing it, and it's voluntary participation. So where it's happening are what they just call key watersheds. I kind of interpreted that as areas of greatest need.
Northwest Iowa?
Yep. So the North Raccoon watershed. Cool. So that would be big time. Boone, also up, the kind of more north central, I guess. Middle Cedar, which is a little bit further east of that, I believe. The Turkey River, that's like up in that'd be in the Driftless region, and then just Dubuque County, which was kind of interesting. They just said basically anywhere in Dubuque County is how I interpret that. So people there they have $3 million of funds to make this happen.
Is it like CRP? Like they're paying yearly?
Yep, I'll get into that here in a second. Which reminds me, I need to pull my phone out because one of my notes is here: read guidelines from website.
Well, so. What I'm curious about is what are they measuring to see if it works, and I think this is an incredible program. We'll get into the details here in a second, but something that I am concerned about is the percentage of water that leaves land through tile.
Yeah,
and the prairie does a little, but not a lot. Now, if everywhere was prairie and you tiled through the prairie, it would catch a lot of that stuff. But the problem is the tile only runs through the prairie for 50 feet. And that's if there's any roots in there at all. So you're not catching all the water that has been tiled out from, above on top of the hill, or any of those things. So I'm curious, like what I mean by that is what are they measuring to see if this is a success or not? And because if let's say 20% of the nitrates and phosphates or sediment or whatever they're trying to measure, 20% are leaving through the top of ground and 80% is leaving through tile. Well, if we eradicate 95%, which is a real legitimate could be statistic based on Iowa State's research on it.
Yeah, if I remember when we talked to Dr. Matt Helmers, which we should all go back and re-listen to that episode, I believe the bulk of the nutrient runoff is at surface and less is through tile.
I think it's the other way around. I think the vast majority is through tile.
That's not what I remember, but and it would make sense that it would be surface, because where is it being applied? It's being applied at the surface. I mean, you rip maybe a knife. Oh,
you're talking about nitrogen. I'm talking about strictly how much water leaves the field, where it leaves the field through.
No, surface is going to still be the most too. I mean, think about it. You're talking to your entire field surface area is getting rained on.
You're a really smart guy, and I think you're wrong on this.
I mean, the tiles run continuously, but the vast majority of a field surface is not tiled. Even with some of the more modern and aggressive pattern tiling that we're seeing, there's still, probably 5 yards between each
but it's affecting the water table. It's making sure that the water table. Riley, what do you think?
I think the majority of in modern agronomic GPS agriculture, I think the vast majority is living through tile.
Yeah. I respectfully disagree with both of you, but the point being,
Larry, could you send us an email? Larry knows, Dr. Larry Weber.
Yeah. I think most drains off the surface when there's rain. Now tiles running, more
ice cream already. I'm gonna win.
Yeah, more constantly. Yeah, your long history of losing bets against me.
Well,
I don't even know if you remember what ice cream tastes like.
Yeah, I haven't had it so long. Okay, sorry. Anyway,
but that is a good point, though. I mean, there certainly is going to be a percentage of the nutrients that are entering into the watershed are going to be coming through tile lines.
And so my main point with that is what we define as success is crucial to whether this pilot program will turn into something, right? Because, some big company could be like, well, look, most of the nitrates are still leaving, blah, 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 but 95% of 20% is still a significant amount that matters.
Right. And so there are ways that you can clean up tile water too. One of the sessions I sat in at PFI talked about saturated buffers, which was really the best explanation I've seen. They had some nice diagrams and stuff for how a saturated buffer works, where basically you're not just managing what's on the surface. You're taking that pipe and you're funneling it you're stopping it short of the creek, basically. And it's going into this kind of like this box looking contraption that then trickles out into an area that has perennial root systems there to help sop up those nutrients. But and I think there's also things called bioreactors too that help with that filtration as well. So
bioreactors are different.
Those were mentioned within this. Those were mentioned within this article here from the IDOL's website. It says farmers and landowners are encouraged to incorporate complementary conservation practices like saturated buffers and bioreactors on streamside buffers, if feasible, for additional water quality benefits. But you're right. We want to make sure that this isn't just a chance for a place that is notorious for abusing its water quality to come up with a shiny Band-Aid and only provide marginal benefits.
Chris Jones calls it a diaper. A diaper doesn't stop you from pooping your pants. It just helps a little bit for a little while.
Well, I think it would make a significant difference. I think the buffers would. I remember from our conversation. I don't remember the exact numbers from our conversation with Matt Helmers, but I remember coming away. I went in as a skeptic. I've said that before on this podcast. I was very skeptical of the Prairie Strips program. I thought it was it was a Band-Aid on a hemorrhaging wound,
like a greenwashing.
Yeah, just a way to make it look like we're doing something here, but we're not actually ever going to touch the real problem, which is, over application, farming ground that shouldn't be farmed. Those types of things, the expensive problems, right? But I remember coming out of that conversation with Dr. Matt Helmers and being very encouraged, and with the numbers, the data that he shared with us. So I do think it will be a big positive the way it's going to work. So it is state funded. I dug into that a little bit. Okay, where's this money coming from? So when you first hear it, it's like, well, the money's coming from IDALS, Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship. So I looked up, all right, well, where are they getting it from? And so I just used Gemini to kind of track that down. And that Gemini said it's coming from the state's Water Quality Initiative. So then I was like, okay, where does the state's Water Quality Initiative fund? How does it get funded? And essentially, a couple of other funds that I believe are funded with taxpayer money. The state's general fund. This was all Gemini giving me this information, so it might not be perfect. And then Iowa REAP also helps fund the Water Quality Initiative here in Iowa. So I like it that it is state funded. When I looked up how Minnesota's program, their buffer law gets funded, it is funded. It wasn't very clear, but it just said on the actual law when I was reading in the bill there, reading the law, it said that its cost shared program for landowners is coming through local, state, and federal programs. So that tells me EQIP, maybe a county has something going on where you can get a grant or something. And then also, I imagine a lot of people, when this law came out, jumped on CRP as fast as they could.
Yeah.
There's just no question that if you can get CRP to cover a lot of this type of work on your land, that is your best route to go, because you get a lot of the benefits that the other programs provide, like the cost share. But you also get the continuing payment for, them essentially leasing your land to provide that service. And I am all for that. I take that back to Ted Cook. I talk about it all the time. If we want these things, we need to pay for them. We need to help provide them. We can't just be somebody who's a non-landowning person and say, hey, give me this, I want it. That's not reasonable. I understand they have benefits that they get to enjoy by having the resource of land, but they still should be compensated for providing us with things that we want and need. And some of it should come down to loving your neighbor too, right? Like that every landowner should keep that in mind too. How do I be a good neighbor, a good member of my community? Yeah. And so that,
by protecting water and wildlife.
Right.
Interesting.
But I do think they should be rewarded. And here's how the cost share breaks down here in Iowa. And it's pretty good. It's better than you'd probably think. So harvested buffers, which you like, these would be buffers that, I don't know if you could straight up graze them, but you can at least hay them, is the way I understand that. Or you could take seed off of them and sell seed. I'm here to tell you that you will not get rich hand harvesting that much seed. but if you're basically getting some kind of income off of your buffer strip here in the Iowa pilot program, your rate will be this. You will get $250 per acre for establishment costs. So that's your seed, your planting fees and that kind of thing. And you will get $1,500 per acre. And I believe this is upfront. The best I can understand it, this is an upfront payment for foregone income. And that lasts for a 10-year period.
Okay. So $150 a year.
Right. Whereas if you choose not to harvest it, you're just letting it go. You're leaving it alone.
Wow, yeah.
You get a one-time payment of $500 per acre for establishment costs. So doubling your establishment costs, you could put in a really nice mix for $500 an acre, and then $3,000 per acre for foregone income over the next 10 years.
So do you think we could
basically
put creeks on our farm to have more exposure so we could do this program? That's a great program.
We are not in one of the project areas, unfortunately.
Yeah. But we do have a creek and a pond.
Actually, fortunately, we are not in one of the establishment areas because, like I said, I think those are the areas of greatest need, unfortunately. Yeah. The Turkey River seems like a pretty good spot up north. But the thing of this is a very small scope compared to what Minnesota has done. Minnesota did it in their whole state, as I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a start in the right direction. I do agree with you that how you're going to monitor this is critically important. It's also coming at a time when the state has largely defunded our water quality management system. Now, thankfully, through talking with Dr. Larry Weber here recently, it seems like they're doing a good job finding those funds elsewhere. There's some I think it will get funded. Everyone should look into it and see how they can help. And we need to talk to Dr. Weber again soon to just figure out what needs to happen to make sure this keeps going. But I'd like to give a big shout out on the podcast to those groups that have stepped up. I know you guys have talked about it in past coffee times, some of the groups that have, but, it would seem like it would be obvious to include them in gathering the data for water quality data. But it will be interesting how it's measured, and it will be interesting if it's going to just stay at the scope of this pilot program so that it can be used in a greenwashing way. Look
at these programs we're working on.
Right. Yeah. We got a buffer pilot project, and we're just waiting to get the data. It'll take us 10 years.
It cost me my whole last month's salary to dish out this $3 million to be able to.
It'll be, the delay of it's a 10-year program. So we're waiting to collect data at the end, and in the meantime, nothing changes. I do fear, the skeptical side of me fears that, but a wise man once told me, you got to be an optimist to be in this business.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to view it as a good step in the right direction. I do think, here's my political advice out there to any wannabe governors. I do think that Nicolas is correct in saying that water quality is going to be a deciding factor for the gubernatorial race. And low-hanging fruit to me would be to really go full steam ahead with implementing this in a large-scale way. I don't think it necessarily has to be done overnight. I think that we would probably get more. I think because of the culture that exists in Minnesota, you're able to do that maybe a little easier, and they kind of did. Like they said, by November 2017, every bit of land that borders one of those lakes, rivers, or streams had to have that implemented.
That seems very stressful to NRCS office.
And by November 2018, every ditch had to be implemented.
Oh, one day difference.
No, 1 year difference.
Oh, okay. November 2017
versus November 2018.
Yeah.
And so I think they did kind of do more of a, hey, this is happening, get on board. I think there's probably ways where we could be a little more gradual so you get better acceptance, like maybe saying kind of like how we do septic tanks here in Iowa. You're grandfathered in if you if it's always been that way, or I think if you sell within your family, there's some ways you can get around having to update your septic system to be environmentally sound, like the DNR checks in on it. So I think there's ways that we could be like, well, as soon as the land changes hands, you know, it has to be implemented. So if you go to sell, then you either before you sell, you have to get this done, or before it can be purchased.
Cushion the blow a little bit, because you're paying for it when you just got $2 million in your pocket,
or every time land is passed on through a trust or through inheritance in some way, it's got to be done. So that way you can kind of, I don't know, just make people not hate it as much, because those people are always going to be there, and you got to try and work with everybody. Excuse me.
So I just looked it up. Well, I looked it up a while ago, but this has got to be wrong. 1,500 miles of rivers and creeks in Iowa. It's got to be more than that, right? I feel like it's got to be more than that. Because think of how many creeks, like old creeks that we've got.
Yeah, I would think it has to be way more than that.
But 1,500.
Because what do we have for tile lines? We have like,
I don't know.
Around the moon 25 times.
Wasn't it like 800,000 miles or something crazy
obscene.
like that?
Well, so I looked it up. If you have 1,500 miles and you have 37 and a half feet on each side, that's a buffer strip. That's 75 feet per mile. That ends up being millions of feet. You divide it by how many square feet per acre, and you end up with just shy of 14,000 acres of what could be very high quality habitat and have an outsized impact on water quality. Yep. Something else I think would be kind of interesting is if you could only put tile in waterways, in areas where there are roots and grass. Now, I don't think that would do a perfect job, because a lot of times it's like brome, and the brome isn't as deep. The roots aren't as deep as the tile. But I do think if you had, like, you know, a nice prairie in there in your waterways, you'd have to mix it with fescue for you know, if it's going to be highly erodible, but because you'll just have like gullies dug in there if you're not careful. But you put those in the waterways, and then you put the tile under it. I feel like you could drain it, but then the water getting to the tile is sifting through those roots.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the tile's got to have an outlet somewhere, and what's getting drained most times are unfarmable acres for certain points of the growing season, or maybe every other growing season. You know, maybe it's just under high water years, and so you're essentially relocating a swamp, right, or a marshy area, or a boggy area. You're relocating it with tile, and currently it's relocated to where?
The Gulf of Mexico,
the creek, right?
Yeah.
So in other words, not another wetland, just a creek, just into surface water. Groundwater's turned to surface water. Now, a lot of that groundwater is short-term groundwater, you know, like you get a good hard rain, or, you know, it takes a few days for it to sop down, and then the tile picks it up. But if you just had, I think those saturated buffers are probably the best solution for if you're going to improve what's going on with tile.
Yeah. Catch water, and for nutrients.
Nobody's going to be signing up to just relocate the bog down the hill.
Yeah.
We got a broken tile line on this farm, and look at what a pain that was to work around this last summer. I couldn't even come within 20 feet of that thing, or you'd be sunk to your axles. Right?
Yeah.
So no one's going to want that in the bottom of all their fields. So I think the saturated buffer is probably going to be your best bet there.
Well, and I like the saturated buffer. And what I really like is that you can control when it's saturated, when it's not. You can drain them, so they fill up and they sit there. But then, of course, sediment-wise, ponds do better. You know, to have a big old pond and let the is it coagulate? Is that the term for when particles come together and they get bigger and then they sink to the
conglomerate?
I was just re-listening to my interview with Ted Corrigan from Des Moines Water Works.
Coagulate. That's like, I mean, I think that kind of works too.
I don't know.
I'm thinking of blood coagulation.
Yeah, all the nurses
where they
just
forms
cringed.
a clot.
Yeah, man. But I don't know. I'm curious. One, I'm curious. What is their measurement of success for the waterways? Two, I'm curious. How does it measure? Like how well does it do? And then 3 is culture wise, are we going to accept this? Because Iowans, it's easy to be like, why are we telling farmers what to do?
Well, I think you're too skeptical on whether it's going to work or not. I think the Prairie Strip data is, from talking with Dr. Matt Helmers, is very, very clear.
Yeah,
and talking with Tim Youngquist, because that's all this is.
Yeah,
that's all this is. This
no,
is just
I'm saying
getting implemented.
What? Yeah, but at the state level, what did the legislation decide, or whoever implemented this? What did they decide is going to be the measurement of success? Yeah. Right? Because you could be someone
targeting. They mentioned they are targeting nitrates and phosphates.
Yes, but there is a big difference in measuring nitrates out of the tile from your land and measuring nitrates in the stream.
Yeah, but the tiles are running into the stream, so they'll be able to see a change.
So I was just well, no, not necessarily. I was just at a PFI thing where the guy has both bioreactors and saturated buffers, and he said the amount of nitrates less in his tile is like incredible, and he's the main land source in that stretch of the creek. And then you measure the creek, no difference, nada. Now, obviously, what is that?
So what does that tell you about number of nutrients coming into the ground or in the surface water from surface versus tile? Then
no. What he was saying was that, like, the amount of farmers upstream that you need to make a difference, which I think this would address. But my point is that people could skew those stats to make it mean nothing. That's my whole point, is that whoever's in charge has a lot of power to be like, well, we're going to measure in this 10 acre or this 10 mile area, this 10 mile radius. Well, but they might not be accounting for the nutrients from 200 miles away. Well, and now all of a sudden we have a quote unquote failure because we decided we picked the wrong measurements.
Well, I don't think I think at that point it would just be straight intellectual dishonesty if you're running a bad experiment, a bad test. At that point, I have faith that they would use reasonable. I mean, water quality sampling has been going on for a long time, not just in Iowa, just in general. And so there's well accepted methods for getting data on water quality. So I feel confident that they would.
And I think the best way, speaking directly to the listeners here, the best way to make sure that there's intellectual honesty is to continue the pressure that you care about the water quality issue, because we are on the cusp when we're off recording with the gubernatorial candidates. Ken and I selfishly figure we each get one piece of advice to tell them, like, hey, this is something I think you should think about. And mine's always the water thing. It's always the water. And then I tell them, look into prairie strips. Like, I do think prairie strips could make a huge difference, and without having to cover huge percentages of the land, you could do a lot more damage on specific acres if we could. And so, but it takes emails and phone calls and forums, and when you show up to these little gatherings with the governor, because they're gubernatorial candidate, because they're hanging out in your county, make sure somebody says water. Make sure it. I don't care if you had the most important question ever about your grandma. If nobody said water, you better use your chance to ask a question about water, because we got to have the pressure on and remind them that this really matters to us. And if you have never sent an email to your representatives, that's okay. We forgive you. It's very easy to do. And then you could have a title that just says water quality. Hello, my name is so-and-so. I'm in your district. Water quality is important to me. Please consider that. That easy. And that is what is going to end up making a difference, because even if their pockets are padded by companies or organizations that are incentivized against our water quality, they can't deny how many phone calls or emails or conversations they have about water quality. They can't deny the correlations that are showing up in studies with cancer and water quality. And so, but we got to make sure that stays in their ear. Very important.
Yeah. Well, one other thing I want to throw in here is who's eligible. It is kind of similar to CRP. Ground has to receive the cost share, the financial help on this, and then also like the lost income. It has to be ground that's already in production or being, which may include pasture. I don't know.
Yeah.
If you're grazing it, then and you were to then go into the not using it, like basically you move your fence in, 50 feet or whatever, then you I don't know, that'd be a good thing to call this. I'm guessing the first place to start is with soil and water, your local soil and water commission, and then work up from there to get answers on this. And I don't know how much money's still left on the table for people wanting to enroll, but it'd be a great way to, however big it gets applied in Iowa, it's this big now. Yeah. And if you can be a part of the solution now.
If you're in those regions, please take our tax money and do this. And if you're not in those regions, just shoot a little dangly email, a little Facebook message to your representative's official Facebook account.
I'm thinking a good follow up to this would be for us to reach out to Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resources and just ask if they have data on how. It's been going now for over 8 years. So maybe they've got some interesting stuff that they've been able to see
on the effectiveness of the program. Yeah, potentially.
Man, well, thanks for that, Kent. That was interesting. Thank you, Taylor, for bringing that to our attention. Shooting us a text. Always nice to hang out with you. The Joy Van Weingarten was not excited with me as the marketing guy for not saying on the podcast that we were going to Practical Farmers. So this is me telling you guys that we went to Practical Farmers. We'll be there next year, and that
Riley and I mentioned it in a Coffee Time episode.
I hope so.
We might have.
Well, I was supposed to make a reel. I was supposed to put it on the store. I was supposed to do all these things, and she's like, "What are you doing?" She keeps us honest over here. But we will be at the Iowa Deer Classic. Kent and Judd are planning on being at the Illinois Deer Classic, and then of course we'll be at Pheasant Fest in Minneapolis this year.
And the IPN Winter Conference.
IPN, yes, the Winter Conference. I assume Iowa that's Prairie not closed. And Kent and I are finishing out the day. We are dreadfully
when everyone's asleep, we'll talk to him.
Disdainfully following Tom Rosberg. I told
Are
Tony,
we really?
Yeah, I told Tony I was not happy about that. That is not a person.
It's probably better than going right before him, because then he can just correct everything that we say wrong.
Well, I don't know. I'd almost prefer that, because I feel like it's like when someone's famous for one song and they do the one song at the beginning and then everyone gets up and leaves. I feel like that's what's going to happen at the end of that podcast, or at the end of hanging out with Tom Rosberg.
Just the one guy. Have you ever seen that reel where the guy who's asleep at like a wedding or something, and they have like the strobe light going and it's just hitting him directly in his closed eyes while he's sleeping over and over again?
That's going to be people
the
when
one guy still left in the audience. Thank you for being here today.
Man, that's so funny. Well, we really, really appreciate y'all listening. Don't forget, it's prairie planting time. So if you're looking for some native prairie species, some mixes, some habitat mixes from whitetail deer, if you're wanting them pollinators to show up in your yard, fun fact, you will see insects you've never seen before if you plant a bag. I mean, that is just real. Ken and I a couple of years ago, we were hoeing out in the Sidotes Grama, and a lot of outdoor time spent between Ken and I, and this insect came flying by.
We wanted to see it so bad.
What the heck is that thing? And we could not get close to it. We had no idea what it was. It was like a little black. It was almost like a dragonfly, but it wasn't
quite a dragonfly.
But it was like shimmering black. It was shiny.
Yeah. Anyway. So if you think you know what it is, reach out and let us know, because we really want to
know. When you're like, what was that thing I was thinking of? And you finally think of it.
I think it was just a dragon. I think it was
just a full blown,
just a juvenile dragon.
I'd mortgage my house to have a dragon, a pet dragon. I'd sleep on the streets.
You wouldn't have a house.
It sounds dangerous.
I want to bet I could domesticate. If you could domesticate any mythical creature, what would it be? Mine's dragon for sure.
Domesticate a mythical creature. It would have to be something that could offer me a significant service that current domesticated animals do not. So probably flight would be.
Yeah.
So maybe like some kind of griffin or a
griffin. That'd be solid.
What's the flying lion thing?
That's a griffin.
Is that a
Yeah,
griffin?
it's got the head
Yeah,
of a
yeah.
lion.
No,
The
griffin,
wings
I
of
think,
a-
has
Pegasus
the,
is the horse, right?
Yeah, Pegasus
Yeah,
is the horse.
yeah.
I think a griffin has the head of a hawk and like the body of a
Oh.
lion and wings.
Okay, close
Yeah.
enough.
I'm not versed. Riley,
I
what do you
want
got?
something
Ah.
that's fairly intimidating, but also somewhat.
You guys have
docile.
used up both of the fantasy animals that I can think of that are useful.
So a
Someone better
Everything
mention
else
liger.
sounds
secondary.
dangerous.
No, that's not mythical. That's a real. A secondary for me, but it would burn my pants off. Would be a phoenix. It'd be so cool to have a phoenix.
Oh yeah,
I think that'd
we're
be
just
awesome.
basically turning into Hogwarts over here.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was the end of it for the useful information of our podcast. Turn back in, I guess, while Riley, Ken, and I played Dungeons and Dragons. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again next time.